Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the show. Indeed, I am Avrum Rosensweig, and I'd like to remind my viewers and my listeners as to why I do this show. Despite the fact that there are some very difficult times that we're dealing with right now in the world, one could even argue that there's a cloud hanging over us, perhaps a dark cloud, that we have to remember that there is beauty in our world, that there is substantial creativity that has happened to bring us to this place on March the 2nd, 2025. And what I like to do is to interview fascinating people who have accomplished a lot in their lives, and for us to take a lead from them. So I would ask you, when I do this interview, starting in a few moments with Yair Hirshfeld, to take out of it what works for you in terms of your own development as a human being, as a Jew, as a person of the world, as someone who's part of this civilization, and find that purpose and meaning within your life that will help you not only find happiness, but strengthen the world in which we live and strengthen our people. So let me take this moment to say how honored I am to have with me on the show today a very, very special guest, Yair Hirshfeld. Welcome, Yair.
Welcome to you, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Yair is an Israeli author. He's a renowned peacemaker, and he's one of the key figures in shaping the peace process in the Middle East. His work, particularly in the role as someone who played a role in Oslo, has had a profound impact on international diplomacy and the quest for peace in the region. Yair's dedication to dialogue and understanding, even in the face of adversity, has earned him respect and admiration across the globe. In today's conversation, we'll be diving deeply into his journey, the pivotal moments that shaped his path, and his unwavering commitment to fostering peace. And we'll discuss his most recent book, The Israeli-Palestinian Peace Process, a personal insider's account. Yair, thank you so much for joining us today. Once again, I'm very honored. I should add that you have been married for 56 years to the lovely Ruthie. You have 4 children, and you are a Zaidi, if you will, a grandfather to 10 grandchildren. How are you doing today?
You know, I'm altogether fine. We have difficult times, but we are fighting to get things better. We have some hope that there will be negotiations. We're waiting in 2 days. The Egyptian government are going to submit their proposal to the to other Arab states, and it is I hope it is going to be a very constructive answer to President Trump and to us, saying that we need the reconstruction of Gaza, and Hamas has to get out. There has to be major action to get Hamas out, otherwise there cannot be reconstruction. We need security, and we have to work together. And I'm actually we have a lot of dialogue with a lot of people on that. I'm working with the former High Commissioner of Bosnia-Herzegovina, who is an Austrian, who works together with the former Swedish Prime Minister Bildt, and thinking how things can be done on the European side. And I'm working particularly with an Israeli-Palestinian Jordanian non-governmental organization called EcoPeace Middle East, who are doing wonderful work. We've worked with them, they exist for the last 30 years, but I've worked with them for the last 5 years. Many of the plans that we did before October 7 have become now relevant today.
Tell me something. Do you qualify yourself as a peacemaker? Is that how you see yourself?
Surely, no, I'm an Israeli patriot. I'm also a strategist. I'm a historian. And I have, for the last 45, 46 years, I've worked on peacemaking with all the ups and downs. I never had illusions. We made mistakes on the way. Often we said the right things and others made the mistakes.
Yes.
But this is what happens if you're active.
Well, what is it like to be a peacemaker in Israel today, in particular after October 7th?
I'll tell you in a way. Israel is a wonderful society. There are wonderful people in Israel, and there are terrible people in Israel. There has been for the last 40 years a campaign of saying how terrible Oslo is, and I've been called the Oslo criminal. Actually, since October 7, this has changed from definitely to the better. I get far more recognition from those who don't exactly identify with our government. And there is a very strong work in Israel. There are demonstrations every day, and particularly every Friday and Saturday. And we are working. There are a lot of there's a lot of Israeli-Palestinian dialogue going on. There's a lot of hate and a lot of resentment, and the situation is very difficult. It's got worse, not better, but the determination to recreate hope is there, and we're doing quite a lot.
I've interviewed a few family members of hostages. Well, one such individual is Yair Moses, whose father, Gadi, is 80 years old, and he's a farmer in the south. Magnificent.
Gadi Moses worked with us here. There's the Galilee Institute, which is 10 kilometers away from us, and he worked with Palestinians in agricultural development.
Yes, that's right. I've also interviewed Michael Levy, whose brother Or recently came out of Gaza as well. And I've asked them both, Yair, how they feel today about the potential of making peace with our enemies, with the Palestinians, with those people who are on the other side. And they shake their head and almost quietly they say they don't want it. They go, they don't want it. What's your thought on that?
Life is complicated. I'll tell you so much. I grew up in the Shomer Hatzair in Vienna, and our group went to Kibbutz Magen, which is opposite from Khan Yunis, and they were saved miraculously. But they will also tell you, we have security needs, and we are afraid of the thing. And there has been for the last 25, 30 years, there's been an Iranian genocidal policy against Israel, supported and encouraged Hamas and Hezbollah to ring around Israel and actually strangulate Israel in a very devious manner, and the world has ignored it. And we have to fight this. Now we are fighting them. Now, if you speak about the Palestinians, you have four different groups in Palestine. You have a Palestinian peace group. You have a Palestinian government, and I'm not speaking about the president. You have a Palestinian government who are state builders, and they're wonderful people, and they can do very good work. You have Mr. Abbas, who is weak and corrupt, and the people around him are weak. You have a third group, but the most dangerous one, a former prime minister. We don't want the Palestinian state. I said, how do you don't want the Palestinian state? He said, if there will be a Palestinian state, you will be on the top of, and everybody will give us shit. I said, okay, what instead? He said, we will you, and we will never get there. We will all the begin when we come there, and then we will be on the top of the world with Palestinians, and you Israelis will fight with you. So we need to lead peace negotiations in a way we create with what the South African reason move forward is logical, and the only we can reconstruct Gaza. In order to reconstruct Gaza, and we worked on the details of it, the small amount of $120 billion, which is more than you and I have together, I can assure you. but it is also more money than the donors are ever willing to give. This money has to be raised by economic, business, and political and security interests, which Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates have. And if you develop, we've prepared a plan where you develop the entire area from India via the Arab Gulf, the Arab states, to Egypt, Jordan, Israel, Palestine, maybe also Lebanon, and you develop this area. So what we said, you need peace on a regional basis. Now you had in before October, you had in the G20 meeting in India, and they created what they call India, the India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor, which are quite a lot of important states: United States, the Germany, France, Italy, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and we need them to promote this, and we're working on it. And actually, there's action in promoting this and making this happen in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, here some of the things that are required of what we'll call a peacemaker, what you do for a living, are self-awareness, patience, compassion, forgiveness. In your heart, after October 7th, do you feel that you have forgiveness for the people who were responsible for it, or is that not necessary?
You know, you need compassion, but peacemaking is strategy work, and you have to you have to sit down also with your enemies, and also with people who've been terrible to you in the past, and it needs a lot of control. We have a wonderful Israeli friend who works with both sides, who does things that are quite impressive. The answer is no. You have to overcome your resentment and hate also. There are some people I would like to send to the moon or wherever else.
I remember when I looked at the picture of Rabin on the front lawn of the White House shaking hands with Arafat, and I thought to myself, and I could have been reading into this, but I looked in Rabin's face and I tried to look in his eyes, and I thought about how pained he must have been to reach out his hand to this person who was responsible for Ma'alot, the killing of children in the school and other such terrorist attacks. I know that you've sat at the table with Arafat as well, with Avrum and some of the key players who are not our friends. What is that like, Yair, knowing who they are in their heart and their soul?
Very important. You have to talk to them and you have to understand. If I look back at the Rabin assassination, the big mistake on both sides, on our side and on their side, is that we did not attack the militant radicals. On our side, I'll tell you that very bitterly. On our side, you had the wonderful Rabbi Yoel Ben Nun, who told the Shabak, our security service, that 15 rabbis had given okay for Din Rodef or Pulsa de Nura, had actually legitimized the murder of Rabin. Now, in any normal society, these 15 rabbis should have been arrested and put on trial and put into prison. The opposite happened. These rabbis started a major threat fight against Yoel Ben Nun, and Yoel Ben Nun needed to go in a shachpat to save himself that he would not be assassinated, and it went by as of nothing. And we are paying the price here for. And the truth is that on Arafat's side, the same happened. He wasn't willing to fight his we didn't take enough action against the Hamas. He told one of our generals, when you went to Altalena, Begin decided not to fight. If I go and will kill the Hamas, they will fight us. So it's not an easy decision. And there was a first fight in November 1994, and his reaction was to play with them and to appease them on our account. And then he did terrible things, but he did also good things. I speak of Arafat, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The ugly was the terror and not doing enough against it. The bad was that he didn't build. He was a revolutionary. He kept the system that prevented the structural Palestinian state building, and he played one against the other. He had all these kind of games. He used corruption to strengthen his. And the good was that he was also looking for a way out of the mess. And if Rabin would have lived, we probably might have gotten there. If you read my book, with Netanyahu, at the first 3 years, things were difficult, but they were sustained. Barak, Arafat cannot be forgiven. Arafat is the culprit. Arafat cannot be forgiven of rejecting the Clinton parameters, which was Barak's proposal. But Barak handled the negotiations in the most stupid way. But Arafat must be, of course, accused historically for not accepting the state that was offered to him with Jerusalem, the capital, and with a deal with other deals that took care of all the legitimate Palestinian interests.
So, speaking about the importance of sitting with your enemy, and I understand that, I've spoken to many, many leaders, spiritual leaders and otherwise, about the aftermath of October 7th and their relationship with imams, Muslim leadership. And they all told me essentially it fell apart entirely. That
No,
yeah, so that's what I'm asking you.
It's
That's
not
what I'm asking.
No, you have Siach Shalom. You have Siach Shalom, called in English Talking Peace. They're wonderful people. They exist 15 years, and they first it broke down, and now it's revived, and they're speaking about ways and means to use religion on both sides to pave the way for peace, and you will need religious legitimacy, and they will, and you have Muslims who are strengthening the Quran to say that Jews are here and Jews have to be here, and we actually need a Jewish sovereignty here. And I can tell you that the Bible also speaks of, in some way, of a two-state solution. I can give you the quotes if you want. I'm not good in quoting the Bible, but when God is giving the land to Avram, he says he's giving to your two sons, and the second son is obviously not Jewish. And then afterwards, Avram has a meeting with Lot, and he says, let's not fight. You and your herdsmen go to the left. I and my herdsmen go to the right. There's enough space, and we don't have to fight with each other, and we can divide the land among us in a peaceful manner. So the Bible actually speaks about moving to recognizing Palestinian rights. Now, you only one more sentence. You only can do it if Israeli security needs are taken care of, and they are not. The threat is not mainly from the Palestinians. And if Palestinian security needs are taken care of.
Yair, you actually quoted this from Parshat Shalach, I believe, Shalach Lecha, and you did so at a conference. and you said that you had heard this from, I believe his name's Yoel Benun, who is as you qualified him, as a sophisticator and a progressive settler. And what struck me when you quoted the Torah, I thought that was very interesting that you did that, and very apropos actually, but more so how you qualified the rabbi as being a progressive settler. And I go back to my original questions about you being a peacemaker. That, am I correct that you have to find within everybody that place where they can come to the table and find within themselves a place to negotiate, to give and take, as they say, right? That must be a very big challenge for you at times, is it not?
Yeah, you survive, and I come from I grew up in Vienna, and I grew up in a left-wing youth movement. And if you would tell me, I don't come from a religious background. I come from an anti-religious background. I never believed that God agreed to killing of 1 million Jewish children. And at Pesach, we would say, "B'chol dor v'dor ba'im lechalotenu, v'akadosh lo ba lechalotenu," because he didn't come. And I do have to translate it. I don't know.
Yeah. Translate, please. Yes.
You say in Pesach, you say every generation, they come to kill us, and God saves us from them, and God didn't come. So, and we have to do it by ourselves. So I grew up with this, but I've reached out to rabbinical leaders. I'm speaking to them. If you read my diary, which will be published, you'll see this. I did this in the most difficult times. But you have to do both. You have to reach out, and you have to fight the radicals. And I tell you where the line is. If I don't know if you've ever been to Kiryat Arba and to Hebron, but if you go to Kiryat Arba and then you want to go into Hebron, on your right-hand side there is a monument honoring the murderer Baruch Goldstein. He murdered 29 Palestinians when they were praying in the mosque. This is not Judaism. This is Nazi fascism. It doesn't belong to us. And if those people who honor Mr. Baruch Goldstein don't stand up and don't break this monument apart, then they are not Jews, and they're not partners for me. The partners are these who really care about Judaism, who care about Tikkun Olam, who care about of compassion, not only for us but also for others, but are very aware of Jewish values all around. Like here.
Yeah, I guess the struggle that I have here, Yair, is that you will sit at the table with Yasser Arafat, and you will sit at the table with Abu Mazen, and on very people who are construed to be very radical. Abu Mazen's PhD thesis was denying the Holocaust. Yet you come out virulently against those who support Baruch Goldstein. I'm just trying to understand that.
Yeah, I can sit with Arafat, and I sit with them. In Sir Shalom, I sat with the guy who did what you call it, Din Rodef to Rabin, and I'm good with his son-in-law. I'm speaking to his son-in-law. Yes. Is quite decent. So I do speak to them. What happened then in the meeting with Sir Shalom was that Rabbi Benny Law, who's a wonderful man, and we were directed to speak to the guy, Dov, what's his name? Dov. Good, my memory is no coincidence that I don't remember his second name. But he's very powerful, and I actually didn't speak. Rabbi Benny Lau said him, I read what you wrote, and it's terrible to read it, but now I hear it from your mouth, it's even worse. So I didn't have to say too much. And then this guy didn't come anymore. It wasn't me who ended the dialogue, it was him who ended the dialogue.
All right, but do the stridently right wing, if you will, Do they play a role in peace?
Of course, we need a sufficient majority. We need a sufficient majority, and we have to take care of religious sensitivities. I have a wonderful friend whose name is Offer Salzberg, and I suggest to you to interview him. He wrote he works with them. He wrote his PhD on how do you negotiate non-negotiables. How do you negotiate something that God has ordained you? Why they know what God has given them, and I don't know. What. But let's assume they know. But they believe strongly in it, and I very much recognize beliefs. I honor them if they're decent, if somehow decent. And you have to take care of it. And there are many ways. His PhDs in how do you negotiate non-negotiables. We made a mistake in Oslo not to have the religious there. When Rabin was murdered, I very much reached out to the religious. I reached out to Israel Harel. I now sent him my diary, and he hasn't reacted to me.
Yeah, Yair, I have an 18-year-old son, soon to be 19, God willing. You know what it's like to be a father. You have 4 children of your own, thank God. My son often asks me, he says, Daddy, what do they mean by right wing and what do they mean by left wing? He goes, when I think of something, I think, is this right or is it wrong? Sometimes I see myself going this way. Sometimes I see myself going that way. I've always wondered, Yair, is the right and the left, is that a real construct? Are people really like that?
The answer is no and yes. I have no political difficulty to working with what they call the right wing. Um, but historically, there's a meaning. In the French Revolution, they had people sitting on the right side and on the left side, and it comes from the General Assembly, the Popular Assembly from the French Revolution. The the real difference is the more important the people in the land, and that is a very serious difference. And is the commitment to liberal values common to all, or are there non-democratic values? And then that's a very serious difference. And then from my point of view, I would say democratic liberal people who have got democratic liberal values, whatever right wing, left wing, they are center. And there's a difference between strategic thinking, what is Israel need, what can we do, what is our power, what are the limits of our power, and there's a difference between only military thinking and the understanding of soft power. And I will tell you that the real answer is what we call smart power. It's neither soft power nor hard power. Hard power is military action. But you cannot have soft power without hard power. And you cannot have only hard power, it doesn't work. And if you ever read the literature on it, if you read Clausewitz, if you read Little Heart, or if you read more recently Rupert Smith, the use of force now, you understand there are limits to military power, and we've killing the more Hamas we've killed, the stronger the Hamas has got. And the government, our government, has been a government which has said since 2014, Hamas uneches, Hamas is an asset, and the PA is a liability, and we are paying very, very high for it. And there's a difference between right and left. We would never. We fought in 2014. Don't give money to the Hamas. Don't support the Hamas. Go attack those bastards. Don't see how terrible they are, and speak with people who want to work with us. Now, with all due your accusations against Abbas, Oslo has created peace cooperation, and security cooperation is going on until this very day. And only in the last days, the PA has attacked terrorists in Jenin. So there is right-wing lies and right-wing incitement and hate-mongering against us. And this is, I would say, there's a difference.
You know, there are people in my family, Yair, if I were to talk about the Oslo Accords, they would say, "Pooh, what a major failure that was." And then there are other people who will look at Oslo and say, you know what, it laid the groundwork for some very important work over the last few decades in terms of becoming closer with those on the other side, allowing for dialogue, creating an environment where those who are good folk, as you called them before, could step up and have a voice. Well, what do you see the successes of Oslo, and what do you see the failures of Oslo?
First of all, I may not be totally objective on it. I would, and I can sustain the argument, that the conclusion of the existence of the state is without the signing of Oslo, I'm afraid we would be in a terrible. Some of the highlights, but I can give you more. First of all, peace with Jordan wouldn't have been possible without Oslo. The dialogue, the Avrum Accords wouldn't have been possible without Oslo. Security, the upgrading of Israeli security structure with the United States and strategy with Oslo wouldn't have been possible without Oslo. Opening a dialogue with India, with China, with all these others wouldn't have been possible without Oslo. The enormous economic development that we have since 93 haven't been Oslo. And most of all, Oslo has saved lives. We have given arms, and listen carefully to me, we have given arms to the Palestinians who are securing and saving Israelis. There were terror acts. They killed Israel. They killed Israelis before, and they killed Israelis afterwards. But the Palestinian security cooperation, Israeli-Palestinian security cooperation, has survived 2011, all the revolutions in the entire world. Since we've worked together security-wise after in 1997, 98 for some time, not enough, after all the terrible terror acts. And we have since 2003, 2004, since the end of the Intifada, there's been on the basis of the roadmap, there's been General Keith Dayton has been here, and there's worked security cooperation, and security cooperation is true until this day. And the truth is that those bastards who say true, like you do, they use this. They haven't cancelled Oslo. They know how important Oslo is. Oslo has been a little bit of luxury for them to do outrageous things. So they are very, very they are people who I would take on, and I'm willing to invite them to talk to me and to explain why they think it is. Of course, it wasn't good for their politics. You can do everything to hate hate people in your own country. There's been tremendous incitement against us. I've been attacked physically already on the street by people. They've murdered Rabin, and they've attacked others. They're threatening people. It is, it's part of a hate mongering activity that you have to put in place. And we're standing up to them. We are fighting. We are going. Every success needs a lot of failures. There's been too many failures. We made a lot of mistakes. I am thinking today, and one thing I'm writing will be writing is, where did I make mistakes? The most difficult mistake is where you knew at the time and in spite of something wrong. And I have some points like this. Now, Oslo obviously failed. Oslo failed in moving forwards to a Paris agreement. We did great peace. We allowed the right wing to take totally control. We allowed all the incitement. There are many things that we failed.
Yeah, I've often wondered, and this might be a tad naive in your mind, but I've really thought about this. why hasn't there been an institution set up, let's say, whereby we take what we'll call progressive Palestinians, people who understand true governance, democratic governance, and teach them how to be leaders amongst their own people so that they can rise to the top as prime ministers, as whatever it happens to be. Perhaps that's happening, but if it is, please explain to us the context of it. And if it's not happening, why hasn't it?
First, they say it's partly happened, but I want you to. I think you have one basic, very, very big misunderstanding, and most people have it, and that is the conflict is not Israeli-Palestinian. If you look at the history, from 1892 to 1936, it was a conflict between the two communities, between us and the Palestinians. In 1936, the Palestinian leader, Haji Emil Husseini, and we don't forget it, Haji Emil Husseini turned the conflict into a regional conflict. And we paid in 1947, 1948 because the conflict was with all Arab states attacked us and tried to kill us. And Mr. Haji Emil Husseini worked with Hitler, and he organized Muslim troops in order to kill Jews in the Holocaust. So we haven't forgotten that. So we have real enemy. Now after that, in the 1950s, Nasser turned the conflict into a global conflict. Now we need today, if you want to know what's happening today, to know there's no way to solve the conflict on a bilateral level. We need a global understanding how to move forward, and maybe we can get there. And we need a regional understanding. We will have in 4 days, we will have the Egyptian proposal. The Egyptian proposal may be very good, it may be not good enough, but it has components. They make a lot of sense. What Trump has asked from them, and I recognize the importance from that, Trump has said, whatever happens, it must be Hamas out. You have to understand, there cannot be peace with Hamas. There cannot be reconstruction of Gaza when there's a terror threat. You don't invest $100 billion if you're afraid that this is going to be destroyed once more. And you had these wonderful Hamas guys who told our hostages who got free, we will come back in 1 year. We have not forgotten that. We are very much aware of all these threats. So we have to take care against this threat with security, in cooperation with the Arab states, in taking care of Palestinian civilian lives. Killing civilians is not, killing Palestinian children and women, that's not a solution. That only makes things worse. We need some compassion also for the other side, but we need to be first of clear. You know, Golda said, the people, the poor people will have, of course, the shirt is closer to me than the jacket, and it's nice to have the jacket, but I need first to have a shirt. I have to be first. I need security, and I need security, and I need security. But I need security not only with the Palestinians, who I have in some way, not fully, but almost not terribly, but I need security with the Arab world and with the global world. And I need an American government. That doesn't speak and doesn't do anything. But I need an American government that will help me in doing it. Now, we hope that we have some kind of ways of getting ahead. I don't know if we will get there, but we're working on it.
So Yair, would you have fought this most recent war in Gaza as the IDF? Let's say they came and asked you for your advice. Would you have fought it differently?
The short answer is yes, but first of all, the IDF came and asked me for advice. And I had the order from the IDF to go and speak to Mr. Satterfield and tell Mr. Satterfield, quite in the beginning, Satterfield, who was the nominee of Biden, I'm told that if you get out of Gaza northern area and you move them to the south, and divide of to that. I told Mr. Settle And the field of Qatar. Tell the Qataris to name all the money from Hamas to put Hamas on trial against. And Mr. Setterfield told me, no, we have bigger global interests. I don't know how much money we get from Qatar. You had an American government, all the right things and did all the wrong things. You had an international community on the, if you remember 9/11, in 9/11 on the next day, on the next day you had a UN Security Council resolution 1368. 1368 is you have to put the culprits on trial, you take the money away, and anybody who supports them will be put on trial, there will be sanctions, action will be taken, and we have to support the victims. Nothing like this happened after. What they did to us on October 7 was far worse than what happened to the United States on 9/11. And the international community looked away. The international community looked away. No, we don't know. Iran has nothing to do with you. They're only sending rockets against you. They only have a genocidal thing. We have to fight them, but we have to fight them cleverly. Our way of doing things is we would have to say, we want the international community to take action. We have a Saudi-Israeli peace plan that Netanyahu was working on, and we want to take care of the civilian Palestinian population. There were ways to do it. The inefficiency of the Biden administration and the talk without the do, and the wrong, it didn't happen on all sides. There's a lot of guilt on all sides.
Do you think Donald Trump can do good things for the region?
Short answer is yes, but it can, it can go. The answer is yes. The answer is he's done 5 things that are quite useful, but they can go the wrong way. And as you saw in the meeting with Zelensky, he can go totally nuts. First of all, he's got the ceasefire going. He's got the beginning of the hostage. He has. He's now asking. He had this awkward talk on transfer, which is as a tactics may be clever, as a strategy it's a disaster. But he's asking he sent Rubio to Saudi Arabia and say, okay, if you don't like transfer, submit something to us. And they are going to make a proposal, which I hope we can go somehow to see what yes and what no. It has to take from us. He has had in India on February 13 at the meet Prime Minister, and if you look at the declaration of number 25, but also other things are security and strong action for security and terror in the area. But it's strengthening IMEC, the India-Middle East Economic Corridor. What you need to specify the entire world, and it's very much in line with what we have prepared. And we have this wonderful echo piece which we're working to make this happen. Afterwards, India, obviously on encouragement, India signed an agreement with Qatar where they, in point 15 in the declaration, say we have to take multilateral action against terror, and they give a description of it. If this happens, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. Trump may actually help with doing it. So the answer is, it's not talking and not doing. It's doing something that can be constructive. I can give you scenarios where it can go in the other way. It doesn't mean that I would ever voted for Trump.
How are your people, or how are the Israelis in general, feeling with Trump in the Oval Office?
First of all, the entire people of hostages are extremely grateful that those have get out. It wouldn't have happened without Trump. It wouldn't have happened without Witkoff. So there's a lot of support for him. There's a lot of support from the Israeli right wing from him. This may turn around. This may change quite quickly, but you probably will have to. And there is cautious expectations from us. My argument is that have you? I don't know if you ever read Jared Kushner's book Breaking History.
I haven't. No.
You should read it. It's interesting. He has good staff work, and then he has a decision-making structure which is very arbitrary. If I'm nice, I could give it another word. And it means that there's a lot of thinking, and decision is sometimes not related to the planning itself. And I'm not sure if he always anticipates the reactions of others. If you work on strategy, you have to know what the reaction of the others are. Now, there's a lot of work being done by joint in other places, and it can help a lot. And we're feeding into all of them. You have there are a lot of discussion going on with Saudi Arabia, with United Arab Emirates, with Egypt, with Jordan, and we hope we can.
The demographic of the Jewish world has changed dramatically, let's say since Perestroika, 1989. There are very few Jews today who would be considered hostages, and I don't mean the hostages in Gaza. But what I'm referring to is the Jewish community of Iran. And it's very infrequently talked about, and probably for good reason. But when you sit with individuals who have the ability to make peace, be it the Iranians, be it the Egyptians, and so on, does our peoplehood, does our Jewish community within Iran itself, of which there's about 9,000 Jews, does it come into your mind? Does it ever come into the dialogue?
They, for the last 25 years or longer, pursued a genocidal policy with supporting all the others, Houthis and Hezbollah and Hamas and Jihad, giving them the theory of how to create terror, how you provoke it. You start low-scale terror. We don't react, they escalate, we have to react. There is a major hate campaign going against us, which some people in Canada and the United States, in the international community, in the universities have followed and accepted. They've given arms and terror things to. They've attacked us with missiles. They've built a strangulating ring around us, and they made life unbearable. And we have to take care of them. We have to attack them. Now I think of the Jewish community there. I think of the others. They're hanging people in central places. They are torturing people. They're fighting their own people. And they have no scruples. It is a terrible. It's a regime of criminals, and you have an international community that looked away. If you want to, I can tell you. If you look into my book, I'm describing a situation I had in Brussels, which was outrageous. I came into a meeting where the Iranian speaker was, and he was attacking Israel all the time. And people knew me there, knew my peace work. And I stand up and say, you're afraid of us, we're afraid of you, let's stop each other. He turns his back to me and says he doesn't speak to war criminals. And nobody comes to my defense. And the European chairman lady says, I want to apologize for this undue intervention of this Israeli. This being the position of the international community. And we never stood up against it. And our Prime Minister has tried to pay off Qatar and to give Qatar money and take money from Qatar and give it to Hamas. So, the shared guilt is evil. And then for you to say, Oslo, Oslo's guilt is the nicest thing that fits into the picture.
Yeah, here there's all kinds of reports that are coming out of the Anti-Defamation League here in Canada, the B'nai B'rith and other such entities about the spike in anti-Semitism around the world, and we're certainly feeling it here in Toronto. I've asked many of my guests, including Michal Cutler, who is Israel's envoy fighting anti-Semitism, and other such people, IDF soldiers and so on. Why are the Jewish people hated so much?
I grew up in Vienna after the Holocaust, and I decided with 9.5 years that I will not live in Vienna, but I will live in Israel. It took me some time to do it. And I was head of Shomer HaTzayir, I was Rosh Ken, and I felt responsible for 120 children. We have a long history of hate against Jews. I can tell you that in 1962 I was 18 years old, and Eichmann was executed, and I was Rosh Ken, and we, the young Jewish leadership, were brought to Israel to learn self-defense. And I came back to Vienna, and we did 4 things, and I would recommend all to do all the 4 things. The first is we went to Sport Club Hakoach to found a unit for judo and Krav Maga and for self-defense. So the youth, you have to self-defense and see anybody hits you, he will have to know you have to hit back from. The second thing that happened was coincidental. My sister, but it wasn't coincidental in substance. My sister went to school with the daughter of the Minister of Police, who I admired for various reasons because he stood up against the Nazis. And that's why I was nominated by the Allied Forces as minister. He phoned me. When I coming back from Israel, he phoned me and said, Yair, he said, Peter, by the way, don't do any stupid things, but if you need support from the police, you have my phone number. I know his private phone number until today. You have my phone number. You can phone me 24 hours, 7 days a week, whenever, 2 o'clock at night, 4 o'clock at night. Whatever when you ever ask for I will give you A, B, C, D, E, F. You need the support of the local governments to take strong action. This was number 2. Number three was we had in Vienna, this is Vienna, you had after the Holocaust, you had children of Nazis who studied with us, not with me, I didn't go to university there, who were ashamed of their parents and who worked with us. Some of them became even Jewish. And they helped us to establish an intelligence system that we knew exactly what is happening on the right now. We had we got documentation, we read their newspapers, we had an archive seeing what was happening on their side. And the fourth thing was important. We worked together with there was a strong anti-fascist movement in Vienna at the time, who attacked the right wing, and we worked together with them. We went together with them on demonstrations, and we cooperated with them. So you have to fight those parties. You have to fight this terrible, you have to go against Columbia University. Now you have a difficulty in Canada and the United States, and I happen to tell me what happened to me in a synagogue in Canada. This is true for Palestinians and Israelis at the same time, or Jews at the same time. If you don't live in Israel, if you don't bear the consequences of your doing, you are either very pro-peace or very anti-peace. You're not in the middle. You don't understand the consequences. And you have this terrible lady in what's her name, the philosopher, who is supporting Hamas violence against us, with all kinds of Jews who saying the most outrageous things in the world. Others who want to kill all the Palestinians, and we have to work with them and tell them, we have to think a little bit more strategic. And we don't have absolute answers. We have only partial answers. But the partial answers are very important, and they don't give you everything. Or it's not an absolute answer. But reality is complex, and you never have full 100% answer.
Yair,
Anti-Semitism, and I'll add something else. Israelis, wonderful Israelis, don't understand anti-Semitism. You have to be grown up in a place like Germany or Austria to understand it. Probably in England or probably in Canada. But you have Israelis who are criticizing Israel in a way which is outrageous. And you have a dialogue where I compare the dialogue to the Kennedy-Khrushchev meeting in Vienna in 1961, where Kennedy says, I've got no difficulty if 5,000 Americans demonstrate against me in front of the White House and say Kennedy should be kicked out and Kennedy should be put on trial. And Khrushchev answers, I've got no difficulty whatsoever. I can organize 20,000 Russians who before the Kremlin shout Kennedy is a criminal and Kremlin should be out. And this is part of the Israeli-Palestinian dialogue. We say we made mistakes, and they said you made mistakes, and there's no, and this is very bad. This has to be like, we're not doing enough to do this.
But before we conclude, I really want to take an opportunity to get a sense of some of the great leadership who fought their entire lives for a peaceful and a secure Israel. Excuse me. One person who comes to mind, whom I've read a lot about and I had a fascination with, was Menachem Begin. Did you interact with him at all?
No, I'm critical. He has, his great moment in history, and history will always recognize it. Then when Ben-Gurion decided on the Altalena to say you don't have military groups in the state, he gave the order not to fight back. Mm-hmm. This was great leadership. But he also part of the incitement against the left, against him, was him. My first discussion with Yossi Beilin, my first confrontation with that was in 1981. Begin was saying, "Kibbutzim, they only have housing, so they only think they have all the money, and they don't, and you." He was inciting against very decent people, and you had people were incited by Begin. They took the car of Peres and Yossi Beilin and all shoved it over, and they were threatening them physically. And I told Yossi, you cannot ignore this. You have to put those culprits on trial and say they have committed a crime and they must stand for it. And they didn't. And Begin, I have some other things against Begin, but Begin was decent. He cared for it. He cared for people. And he's a mixture. There's nobody like Ben-Gurion. Ben-Gurion was our great leader. And Ben-Gurion understood strategy, understood security. He understood hard power. He understood soft power. Ben-Gurion, if you want to understand, Ben-Gurion worked in 1948. First of all, he had elections in war, and then he took a coalition not with his own people, but with the other side. He did everything. Exactly the opposite as our present prime minister. And but he also gave the order, and maybe did not know, and he gave the order to document. In war, there are always war crimes. You don't have a war without war crimes. To document Israeli and Palestinian war crimes. and say after the war, sometime when we make peace, we'll have to talk about both their war crimes. You cannot speak only about our war crimes, not theirs. You cannot speak only about their war crimes without saying that we also did some. And some were part of the war, and some things happened. Also out of self-defense, which is not really a crime. And there are many things we have to look into. The idea of the war legal thing, the law logic of proportionality is anti-deterrent. You can't have with a terror organization proportionality of reaction. And we only allowed to hit them back when, if they kill 10, we're only allowed to kill 10 of them. It doesn't make sense. But we need to maintain basic morals and be aware that you have to work on that. And there will have to be some kind of truth and reconciliation committee sometime in 15 years when we get to something more stable. But on begging, we obviously differ.
Yeah. Here, in conclusion, you're in your 80s, like they say in Yiddish, "Kanina hora," right? Some there are those who say that these are the best years of one's life. I know I'm 65. I'm almost 65, and quite frankly, I've never felt so driven and so excited and so accomplished as now. How is your spirit? How is your neshama? How are you feeling inside? Are you excited to move forward, to continue to do things? Are you a little bit weary? Are you all of the above?
The answer is all of the above. I'll tell you, I love my wife, and with 81, I'm close to 81, I wonder how she managed to stay together with me all this wonderful time. So I have some debt that I have to take care of.
Yes.
And I advise you to take care of it even earlier than that. But it's been the big fortune of has been this, and this will get more aware of when you get older.
Are you involved with your children and grandchildren as much as you'd like?
Yeah, sometimes too much. No, not too much. I have this my firstborn granddaughter. Not, not, and then I had 4 years discussion with her. Yerush Vetikra. She doesn't want the book to. I'll be seeing young people like them. We haven't made much fun about the book because probably too much me and too little her. But I had 4 years discussion, or 4 years working with her on the book, and she's doing wonderful work today. And we're working a lot with my children. I'm very tremendously proud of my children. My second daughter is headmaster of a high school and in charge of 1,200 children and some 150 teachers. And he's doing great work. And my first daughter, is her field is she's teaching at the university social welfare policies. And then I have a son who has a studio and is a businessman and is giving work to 17, 18 people. And my youngest son has fought a lot in the war and did a terrible job in the war. He was a Chovesh. Was involved. He had to take care of the wounded people and the dead people. Mm-hmm. And but he is now acting as the facto mayor of Timrat. It's a paid position, and he's at the same time head of Ambal, of the organization of cowboys, the growers of beef. They do They have a cause, and that is for peace. It's a big organization, and he got them. He was working with the government, and got a lot of money from the former government, and also from this government.
Just a couple of quick questions. You can answer them with yes or no if you like. Do you believe in God?
In my yes, yes. You know, I believe that God is people believe in because it exists. I don't believe in an old man who you can go to and he will give back.
Okay. Yair Hirshfeld, I want to thank you so much for being with me today. It was an honor to interview you, and I want to thank you so much for your work and for your tenacity. I can only imagine how difficult it is for you to pursue the work that you've done. And God willing, or whatever your predilection, you should be well and healthy and continue on your work towards peace. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can you send me the link after?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everybody for watching and for listening. There were some difficulties throughout the show in terms of the Wi-Fi, but I think it's something that's okay because of the words of my guest today and our interaction, I think will hold its own. So please take out of this interview what works for you. Find meaning and purpose in your life so that you can forge ahead and make your life beautiful and make the world beautiful, make our people beautiful and bring peace to our world. And until we meet again, as they say in Yiddish, sei gesinnt. You speak any Yiddish, Yair?
Ich spreche Jiddisch mit Goy Kripp nach Jeden.
Very good. So, seid gesinnt. And until we meet again, thank you.